Aristotle proposed a geometric problem in the 4th century BC. The challenges are fundamental understanding of how objects move through space. Imagine two concentric wheels sharing the same axis, fixed as a single unit. When the outer wheel makes one full revolution, it covers a horizontal distance equal to its circumference. The locked inner wheel travels that same distance, significantly longer than its own circumference. In a physical world, for a small wheel to cover that distance in a single turn, it has to skid. Classical physics calls this slip. When we apply this geometry to the topology of the Quran, this slip is the transition point between the manifest world and the hidden. It is the space where meaning is generated. We can model this system using the Dual Caustic Universe, or DCU, a closed topology defined by the internal consistency of verse 39:23. The outer wheel represents the D10 field, or the Arash. This is the domain of deterministic physical action, the realm of manifest trial. The inner wheel represents the I9 field, the Kursi. This is the indeterministic domain of hidden knowledge and preservation. Tracking the relationship between these two wheels provides a method to locate coordinates within the text without relying on external conjecture. To understand the cost of physical action, we have to look at the specific trajectory of the D10 outer wheel. This wheel rolls without slipping. Its motion is purely physical. Tracking a point on the rim of this rolling wheel generates a standard cycloid. This curve arches up and then dives down, striking the baseline at regular intervals. These nodes mark the day cycle, moments where the field makes direct contact with physical reality. These nodes represent moments of manifest consequence. A prime example is verse 21:69, where Ibrahim enters the fire. This event functions as a node where the physical trial reaches its maximum depth. The fire is the baseline, the physical reality the D10 arc must touch. This trajectory measures the exhausting cycle of action and consequence that defines the physical domain. Now look at the inner I9 wheel. It is rigidly connected to the same central axis, but it never touches the ground. It is being dragged through space by the motion of the axis, meaning its path is determined by the outer wheel's rotation. A point on this inner rim generates a Kursi cycloid, a shallower, smoother wave that hovers above the baseline. While the D10 wheel plunges into the friction of the baseline, the I9 trajectory hovers in a state of wisdom. The I9 field covers the same horizontal timeline as D10, but it witnesses that timeline without the physical friction of the nodes. The gap between these two curves, the slip from Aristotle's paradox, is where the system performs its data compression. In this framework, the large D10 arc represents state 4 of the Collat's algorithm, which is halved into the smaller I9 arc, or state 2. Physical action is compressed into inner meaning. Verse 37:107 describes this as a great sacrifice that preserves the value of the trial while reducing its physical mass. This helps resolve the temporal coordinate found in verse 18:25, describing the youth in the cave who remain for 300 years, plus 9. The text is describing a geometric duration, not a historical one. The number 309 relates to the inner I9 cycle. Surah al-Asr, the chapter of time, is Surah 103. Multiplied by the triadic closure, we arrive at 309, the structural duration of the I9 path. The youth in the cave are a coordinate on the rim of the inner wheel. They trace the floating Kursi cycloid, experiencing the vertical depth of the night state. Meanwhile, the world outside is measured by the horizontal, historical distance of the D10 outer wheel. When the youth wake, they occupy the same horizontal point as the outside world, despite traveling a different topological path. Applying linear, historical timelines to these verses introduces the noise of conjecture. The cave duration is a problem solved by cycloidal geometry within a closed system. The entire system is held together by the central axis point that binds these concentric wheels. This axis point corresponds to coordinate 1912. We can call it the centromere. The number 19 identifies the I9 field, and 12 identifies the Yusuf path of the D10 field. At this intersection, they become a single invariant reality. The axis converts the kinetic energy of the outer wheel's action into the preserved memory of the inner wheel. Verse 1912 instructs the reader to grip this centromere with strength. This requires the use of akal, the intellect and pattern recognition defined in verse 10:100. Without a firm grip on this central axis, the reader is left at the mercy of the spinning physical edges of the D10 field. To see the complete system, we have to look past the side view of the rolling wheels. If we shift to a top-down perspective, looking directly along the 1912 axis, the rolling geometry reveals itself as a circular disk. This view reveals a structure equivalent to a Smith chart. It is a map of a closed universe. The physical D10 action maps to the chart's resistance circles. The I9 field maps to the reactance arcs, where energy is stored rather than dissipated. The 1912 axis is the active operator navigating this grid. The navigation moves step by step toward the center of the chart, where reflection equals 0. This center point is coordinate 3846, the location of home. The slip between the wheels is the mechanism that allows the system to breathe, driving the reader toward this central point of rest. The Dual Caustic Universe is a self-correcting engine, returning eternally to its center, accessible only to those who can hold the 1912 axis.